It looks like, on a particularly good Thursday, taking the board game down from the shelf and slicing the plastic with a butter knife. It looks like long walks where the topic is tomatoes, then money, then parents, then grief, in that order, because the heart is a muscle that needs warming up. Rafi's hurt didn't evaporate. It settled into the structure of things like a hairline crack in the kitchen tile, mostly invisible, occasionally catching the light. When he found himself rehearsing a question that he knew would only wound them both, he wrote it down and brought it to therapy instead. When Maya felt a flare of longing for the easy attentiveness of someone new, she opened the Notes app on her phone and wrote a message to herself like a craving kept in a jar. I want to be seen. How else can I ask for that? On evenings when their apartment's quiet began to feel like an accusation again, they invented noise. They played a ridiculous game in the hallway where they tossed rolled-up socks into the laundry basket and kept score. They read aloud from books they loved, one chapter each, pausing to say, "Wait, listen to this sentence." They took turns picking a street at random and walking it end to end, not as tourists but as citizens with curiosity. They made a list titled Ways to Make Light, and put it on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a lemon. Sometimes the light came. Sometimes it didn't. They learned not to measure a single day for its ability to give them everything at once. One afternoon months later, Rafi found a small envelope in the mailbox addressed in a careful hand. Inside was a photograph. A room flooded with natural light from clerestory windows, bookshelves in pale wood, and along one wall, a row of deep window seats where sunlight gathered in squares large enough for a person to sit in without touching the edges. The new Riverfront Library had opened, and someone had sent their firm's team photos. On the back, a note from Armin's neat handwriting. For your portfolio with respect. Hey! Rafi stared at the photo a long while. In the image, a child in a yellow shirt had fallen asleep with a book tented over his face like a sky. It was, Rafi had to admit, a good room. A room for staying. Maya came home carrying onions and coriander, and her own small weather. He held up the photo. You did this, he said. We did this, she corrected. A whole team of us. But yes, I helped. He set the photo on the counter. They stood side by side while he peeled an onion and she washed a tomato, and the air filled with the kind of sting that feels like honesty, that hurts and clears in the same minute. What do you want to do tonight? He asked. She considered. A film, a walk, the board game they still hadn't learned. I want to cook slowly, she said. I want to eat with the window open. Okay. And later, she added, looking at him steadily, I want to talk about the trip you mentioned last week. The one to the coast you keep putting off. I want us to book it. Not to fix anything. Just because the sea exists and we are alive. He smiled, real and a little crooked, like something repaired by hand. Okay, he said again, and the word felt like a door. At the coast, the horizon unspooled like thread. The hotel was modest, thin towels, a map with a corner torn off. But the balcony faced the water, and in the mornings their rooms smelled of salt and frying dough from a stall below. They didn't take selfies. They didn't schedule activities. They walked until the soles of their feet, salted and sanded, felt like new coin. On the third day, a storm rolled in from nowhere, arranged the sky into an argument, and let loose rain so thorough it felt structural. They took shelter under a concrete pavilion with a few other people. A woman with a dog who did not mind the water, a pair of teenagers laughing at nothing, an elderly man holding a newspaper like a shield. The rain drummed on the roof, loud enough to make speech a private effort. Rafi looked at Maya and made a face that was almost a question. She answered with her own eyebrows. Later, in the room. He nodded. They stood with their shoulders touching, their arms not quite linked, and watched the rain occupy the world. It occurred to Maya that storms do not ask permission. They are not moral. They are part of the climate of being alive on a planet with weather. In their room later, when the rain softened, they talked. They talked about the night under the awning months before. The decision dressed as a hesitation that hadn't been. They talked about the year before that, when work had expanded to fill the shape of Rafi's days, and how he had mistaken exhaustion for virtue. They talked about the language they would try to use when loneliness came prowling again, the way you might say, I am low on light, instead of, you never see me. We need an inventory, Rafi said at one point, his practical mind finding something to build. Of the easy things we forget. Like what? Like you like your tea the color of a polished table. Like I hate being touched before coffee. Like you will never tire of the sound of someone turning the pages of a book. Like I collect terrible puns and you judge me and also save them. She laughed. We should write those down. They did. The list was silly and accurate, and making it felt like a rescue. Later, not in a way anyone would call cinematic, they sat on the floor and ate bread and small oranges. Outside, the rain finished whatever it had come to say. After the coast, the apartment seemed less like a place where something had gone wrong and more like a place where many things could go right in ordinary ways. The board game finally came out and proved to be more complicated than a Tuesday deserved. They laughed and quit halfway, which felt like a victory for maturity. They hosted their friends, 2 couples and a single friend who arrived with a bouquet of herbs and a bottle of soda, and played a low-stakes game of Teach Us Something Small, where everyone took 3 minutes to demonstrate a minor skill. They learned how to fold a fitted sheet, how to cut a mango so it looks like a hedgehog, how to whistle loudly with 2 fingers. The apartment briefly had so much sound it almost rose. There were still nights when grief, which is to say shame, came like a burglar checking the windows, testing the doors.